Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to measure the gradient of a slope or pathway. Now I'm going to show you two ways of doing this. One way, which is using instruments that you probably have at home, and the other way is using instruments that only professionals use. I'll show you both ways and you can then work out the best way to do it for yourself. So here we have a diagram of a slope. Now the way that we represent slope or gradient in the Livable Housing Design Guidelines is a 1 in 14 or a 1 in 20 slope. So when we talk about 1 in 14 or 1 in 20, we're talking about y divided by x in this image. So how far do you need to travel horizontally to get a drop of 1 meter? So 1 meter in 14 meters is one of the measures in the guidelines. So how would you know though, when you're looking at a path, whether or not your slope is 1 in 14 or 1 in 10 or less than that, 1 in 20? So there's a few instruments that you can use to determine this. The first two are simple instruments that most people have at home: a tape measure and a spirit level. And the way that you use it is to hold the spirit level at the top point of the slope and hold it so that the bubble in the middle is centered, and that indicates that the spirit level is centered and level. And then you take your tape measure and measure the distance at the far end of the spirit level, the end that's above the ground, and then you can measure your y dimension. So then if you divide your x dimension, which is the length of your spirit level, by the y dimension, so you'll then be able to calculate the slope. And I'll show you some tables in a moment that make that nice and easy. But the next way of doing it is with a device called a digital inclinometer. And it's just like a spirit level, except it has a digital reading that tells you what the slope is. So all you do with a digital inclinometer is to place it on the slope and read off the incline from the digital screen. Makes it nice and quick, and it's quite accurate as well. So what do these mean? Well, in this table we have a number of different ways of representing the gradient. On the left hand side of the table you have the gradients the way we represent them in the Livable Housing Design Guidelines. The digital inclinometer will measure either degrees, percent, or millimeters per meter. So a 1 in 40 gradient is only 1.43 degrees, and that means that over a 1 meter length the y dimension would be only 25 millimeters. So millimeters per meter is the y dimension over the x dimension, where x equals 1 meter. 25 millimeters drop over a 1 meter distance. A 1 in 20 ramp will have a 50 millimeter drop over 1 meter. A 1 in 14 ramp is a 71 millimeter drop over 1 meter, and a 1 in 10 ramp will have a 100 millimeter drop over a meter. So you can see 1 in 10 is much steeper than a 1 in 40 gradient. Anyway, that's my overview on gradients. Thanks for listening.